Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good morning. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Calgary, Alberta, Wednesday, July the 7th, and this is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, and I'm happy to be here. This is a 30-minute live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com, and my chat room is open if anybody wants to come and sit in there. We've been looking at this week the Dealing with the Effects of Trauma, a self-help guide. This is from SAMHSA's National Mental Health Information Center. And you can find this article that I'm reading from at http://mentalhealth.samhsa.gov. And it's a great little article. I really like it. It talks about the effects of trauma and then how people who have experienced trauma in their life can, really learn to help themselves and to learn to work through it. And because pretty much, life can be traumatic, right? Almost anyone, probably everyone on the planet has experienced some type of trauma. And I just thought we'd take a look at it. I like this article because it talks, it gives some very simple, sort of advice as far as how to empower ourselves really to move on and heal from trauma. And things to look for in a treatment program. They talk about, we already went through it, but it was empowerment, validation, connection, have hope, take personal responsibility for our healing and for getting ourselves back on track, right? If we've suffered from a traumatic experience in our lifetime that we just can't seem to move past, And they said talk to one or more people about what happened, develop a close relationship with another person. And it says, then we were looking at yesterday things you can do to help yourself, right, to feel better, things you can do every day. So they have some suggestions here, and we went through quite a few of them yesterday. Now there are more. We'll take a look at them today, and then we'll move on to the next portion of this, which is called the healing journey. And they talk a lot about the actual healing journey itself for people who are really working through their healing journey. So I'm glad you can be here. This is, I'm not a professional counselor. I don't hold any counseling certificates or professional therapist certificates. I'm a private citizen who pays to do my blog talk shows. And really because I feel that the more needs to be talked about regarding child abuse, regarding adult survivors issues. There's lots and lots of people out there talking about it and lots of survivors out there who are making a real difference in this world, and I know quite a few of them. It's just amazing, all the work that they do. I really just wanted to be one more voice, and to sort of allow people to see that, first of all, if you're a survivor, that you're not alone and that there is help and you can do it, just to be one more voice of hope out there for people, really. And also because I fight for children's rights. I'm a child rights advocate, fighting to save children's lives every day and to stop child abuse, right? So child abuse is not talked about enough. The only time anybody talks about it is when you see something in the paper that's really disturbing and you see a report of a child who has been killed or murdered at the hands of their parents or caregivers, or they're in the hospital due to abuse-related injuries, and that just bothers me because that's the only thing we hear about it. We don't hear about how to prevent child abuse, how to stop child abuse, what families can do to protect their children. Now and then you see a little bit of stuff on online safety, internet safety for children, which is so important. But they don't talk about anything else regarding child abuse because no one wants to hear about it. It's not a popular topic. And but yet 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be abused under the age of 18 and have been abused under the age of 18, sexually, pretty much any other way as well, physical, psychologically, verbally abused. So there's a whole lot of people on the planet doing a lot of abusing, and there's a whole lot of survivors out there trying to make it through this journey. And, no one is talking about it except for a very select few people. So that's what bothers me, and it really needs to be mainstream so we can find ways to work, to work within our own communities, our own society, and our world to stop this mess, And no one should be abusing their child. It's not right. I don't care. There's no excuse as far as I'm concerned. There's no excuse for abuse. People do abuse people on purpose. They do it because they choose to abuse. So people have to start changing their minds on how they feel about children and how they feel about people in their own lives. as far as domestic violence and abuse goes. So that's why I do these shows, and I really cover every topic of abuse. So you have to listen at your own discretion. And if you're a young person under the age of 18, you really need to have permission to listen to my show, mainly because you have to keep yourself safe and you have to know what's good for you to listen to. So if you're a really young person, you need to get permission to listen to my show and have someone listen to an archive with you, just to make sure that it's something that you should be listening to. There's a lot of adult content on here, and it could be confusing if you haven't heard a whole lot about abuse. So that's the whole issue. It's not talked about all that much in mainstream society, like radio, television. People just don't see a whole lot about it, and if you have not experienced it, which hopefully you have not, then you might be a little bit confused on what I'm talking about. So it's a good idea to have an adult listen to the show with you, someone who's older and that you trust, your parent or caregiver, and that way they can help you with answer questions that you might have, or just to sort of help discuss things with you so that you understand what the whole thing is about. And yeah, so now we'll just get right on with the show here. We were looking at things you can do every day to help yourself feel better from this article from SAMHSA. SAMHSA is the National Mental Health Information Center, SAMHSA, and it's a great article. I really like it. It's so many pages long, but it's really worth reading. They were talking about things that we could do to help ourselves feel better. We could do fun and creative things, get some exercise, write something, write a journal, write our experiences down. And even for people who were not abused as children, right? Lots of people suffer from trauma. Trauma can be anything really that causes you to react, in a physical or an emotional or psychological way that causes a person to to have these feelings of, anxiety, fear, just depression, any number of symptoms, right? It can even cause physical problems, right? Physical symptoms of trauma. It can cause people to overeat or not eat enough. It can cause people to sort of just give up, and that's the whole issue. Trauma is a very hard thing to deal with, but yet we all deal with it. Sicknesses in the family, situations like death in the family, that's always very hard on people. Car accidents are another traumatic event. If you've ever been in a car accident, you would know. And so it's not just survivors of child abuse who have dealt with trauma. Just about anybody on this planet can deal with trauma at any given time, because natural disasters are another traumatic event, that could seriously, sort of impair a person, right? They can't seem to move past it. So there's all kinds of stuff that people suffer, for traumatic events, and it's hard. It's very, very hard on people. And there's ways to get help, and we can get help, and we don't have to allow ourselves to continue sort of suffering on it, whether it's in fear or just anxiety or feeling that they can't deal with it or cope with it. There's ways we can help ourselves, right? It says use your spiritual resources, do something routine, wear something that makes you feel good, get some little things done, like normal things. I think that was really a good idea. Just doing regular housework and read a book, do some laundry, cook yourself something to eat, just get back to normal routine, right? Learn something new, that's always good. I think that's always a very good thing to do. I try to do that every day myself. And then here was the stuff that we hadn't gotten to, and that was do a reality check. Checking in on what is really going on rather than responding to your initial gut reaction can be very helpful. For instance, if you come in the house and loud music is playing, it may trigger the thinking that someone is playing the music just to annoy you. The initial reaction is to get really angry with them, and that would make both of you feel awful. A reality check gives the person playing the loud music a chance to look at what is really going on. Perhaps the person playing the music thought you wouldn't be in until later and took advantage of the opportunity to play loud music. If you would call upstairs and ask them to turn down the music so you could rest, they would probably say sure. And so it helps if you can stop yourself from jumping to conclusions before you check the facts. So that's kind of interesting what they've written there. That's true. A lot of times we almost feel like everything is intentional, or people are just doing this just to get at us or to make us feel a certain way. And I know I've dealt with a lot of that, and that's just because I grew up in an abusive home, right, where people were doing things intentionally to try to hurt me, and they were hurting me and everybody else. So I have a tendency to not trust people's motives and to try to sort of jump to conclusions. So I had to really work on myself in that, especially in my adulthood, and to take a look at what's really happening and the real situation, right? And even at work, I can get involved with that, with bosses thinking, oh, they're just thinking this or they're thinking that. It's just because my boss is having a bad day or something. I take it on personally as if it's something I've done. Then all of a sudden I start feeling like maybe they don't like me. There's this whole psychological side of that, right? So, and really my boss was just having a bad day and it really had nothing to do with me, period. So that's the whole issue. This sort of stuff can happen, especially if you have been abused psychologically and emotionally, right? It's very, very hard. And so, we do have to look at what's really happening and do a reality check. I like the way they put that. Be present in the moment. This is another one. This is often referred to as mindfulness. Many of us spend so much time focusing on the future or thinking about the past that we miss out on fully experiencing what is going on in the present. Making a conscious effort to focus your attention on what you are doing right now and what is happening around you can help you feel better. Look around at nature, feel the weather, look at the sky when it is filled with stars. Be present in the moment. I really like that. I spend, quite a lot of time looking back at the past and whatnot because of the work that I do and because I've published, just recently, my book was published and my story, A Life of Death, The Redemption. Dreamcatchers for Abused Children picked it up, and they thought it was a blog originally, just a public-facing blog, and they thought that it should be published, and that's just awesome. So I do a lot of looking back at the past to make sense of what actually happened in my life, so that I can move forward. But I also try to be present in the moment. I try not to allow that to take over my whole day, and also I do keep quite a close eye on the future. Because most people do, trying to work towards a goal or a series of goals, right, to move us someplace, you know what I mean, in our life, And I mean, goal setting for me is I've always sort of been good at goal setting. I don't always accomplish them, but I like to set goals because it gives me something to focus on, something to work towards, instead of just sitting around just being bummed out or depressed, right? Especially before I started my healing journey, I would still work on goals, but now I have a lot easier time with it because I'm not experiencing the same negative feelings that I had towards myself, right? There was always sort of self-sabotaging all of my stuff, right? Well, I won't do it because I'm not good enough, or I won't write that story because, it'll never go anywhere, right? Whereas I used to have a lot of really quite low self-esteem and a real lack of confidence while, I was still working on my healing, right? And, I got to the point where I thought, hey, if I don't try, then, what's the point? If at least if you try and you fail, you can at least say, well, I tried. So I didn't. So what if I didn't make it? I tried. And I think that is the biggest thing, just to be able to say, well, at least I tried. You know what I mean? Because if you sit back and say, well, I didn't even try, what kind of an excuse is that? It's like, well, I didn't even try because I didn't think I was good enough or whatever, or I didn't think they would accept me or take me or whatever, just due to real, low self-esteem, right? And I thought, hey, all they can do is say no, and I'll just keep trying, right? And that's what we have to do. So, goal setting is good, but we also have to be present in the moment, and that's the thing, spending time just looking around and then, going for a nature walk somewhere, going to a park and just enjoying the sky and the sunset or the sunrise, and, hanging out, doing stuff, right? Just being present in the moment too, and I have to really work on that because I'm very busy. So a lot of times, I'll forget to do this stuff, right? So, and I have opportunity to do it, but a lot of times I just don't make time for it. So that's a good idea because it does help keep us in the here and the now, you know what I mean? So that life just doesn't kind of pass you by as either the past or future, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, where did that present go? It's gone, you know what I mean? So that's why you want to enjoy your life while you're working through all this stuff too. It's a good reminder for me. Stare at something pretty or something that has special meaning for you. This is if we're having hard times and we just think, what can I do to help make myself feel better? These are the ideas that they threw out. They said, stop what you are doing and take a long, close look at a flower, a leaf, a plant, the sky, a work of art, a souvenir from an adventure, a picture of a loved one, or a picture of yourself. Notice how much better you are feeling after doing this. And I mean, that's true. If we have our eyes focused on negative stuff, if your job is just kind of that type of job where there's just nothing, nice or pleasant to look at, then all day you sort of don't get to see the beauty and the awesome stuff that is around us, right? And it is a good reminder for even people like myself who continually deal with child abuse, whether it's my own survivor issues or looking at how to stop and prevent child abuse, which I'm so completely committed to. Sometimes I forget to take a look at the good stuff, So it's a really good reminder for us to take a look around and appreciate some of the beautiful, absolutely awesome, beautiful things that are actually in our world and on our planet and in our lives, and appreciate them, and then be a part of it. Allow that to be a part of our lives too, right? Play with children in your family or with a pet. Here's another idea. Romping in the grass with a dog, petting a kitten, reading a story to a child, rocking a baby, and similar activities have a calming effect which translates into feeling better. And I have no children, but I have pets. I have a cat and a bunny. My bunny and my cat are my babies, and they're my sweethearts, and they bring me a lot of joy, and they are very sweet. Both of them are very lovely little pets, and they are so so sweet. Like, they're so loving. So that's my comfort, to come home and there's my cat and my bunny, and they're waiting for me, and they're so happy to see me, and they love to run around and have fun, and they're cute to watch, and they're very sweet, and they're like pets, and they love affection, and they're very affectionate themselves, and so that's my thing. I love to come home and sort of baby and pamper my pets, right? So if I had children, that's probably what I'd be doing too. But they'd be spoiled rotten probably. But the thing is I love my pets very much, and they are very, very the source of a lot of good feelings for me. I just love them dearly. So it says, do a relaxation exercise. There are many good books available that describe relaxation exercises. Try them to discover which ones you prefer. Practice them daily. Use them whenever you need to help yourself feel better. Relaxation tapes which feature relaxing music or nature sounds are available, and just listening for 10 minutes can help you feel better. And I know that's kind of true. Like, when I sit back and I say, oh, I'm so tired, or I'm just exhausted, I'm going to sit back and listen to some of my favorite music, and something very calming, or something, sort of softer and not all loud and sort of obnoxious. And then sit back on the couch and relax a bit, so you do end up feeling a little bit better, sort of a little bit, relaxed and more calm, It does actually work. I've never actually checked out any kind of real relaxation exercises, but it would not be a bad idea, I think, even for myself. Take a warm bath. That's another one of their ideas. Expose yourself to something that smells good to you, like fragrances, flowers, things that smell good, incense, and some of those scented candles are really awesome. The smell of baked bread, fresh baked bread, things like that, right? If you like to cook or whatever, something that smells good, that's good to have that around us. A nice bath, relaxation, and a good meal, and something that smells good to you, and flowers and whatnot. Listen to music. It says, pay attention to your sense of hearing by pampering yourself with delightful music you really enjoy. Libraries often have records and tapes available for loan, and if you enjoy music, make it an essential part of your day. And I really like music, and I have really not been doing that. And music is something that's I always have found very much important to me, and I have not been making any time to listen to music. So, I should, right, incorporate my music back into my life, because I really do enjoy it. Make music. Making music is also a good way to help yourself feel better. Drums and other kinds of musical instruments are popular ways of relieving tension and increasing well-being. Perhaps you have an instrument that you really enjoy playing, like a harmonica, the kazoo, penny whistle, or guitar. Music is awesome. I know. I wish I was always kind of trying to play a musical instrument and thinking, well, I'll play the piano when I was younger, and that didn't work out. Then I thought, well, I'll try the guitar, and I just didn't have the drive to do it. I didn't have the interest to continue on, but I did learn some songs, and it was fun. I do like to sing, and they said, here, sing. Singing helps. It helps. It fills your lungs with fresh air and makes you feel better. Sing to yourself. Sing at the top of your lungs. Sing when you are driving in your car. Sing when you are in the shower. Sing for the fun of it. Sing along with favorite records, tapes, compact discs, or radio. Sing the favorite songs you remember from your childhood. And perhaps you can think of some other things you could do that would help you feel better. So, whatever helps you feel better, then you can write them down. And we could have a list, right? So that's what the whole idea here was, that we should make a list of things that we know work for us, right? And then try a few new things too. And if they work, add them to the list, right? Because we should have a list of things that, just in case we really feel like, I need something to help, help me feel better, and I don't know what it is. Well, we can get our list, right? And we can go through our list and say, oh, okay, that's right. I love to bike ride, so I'm going to go for a bike ride. And then the next thing on the list might be to read a book and listen to music. And so then you could say, well, I'll try that next time. And then as you start to feel better doing these things, right? Then you know that they work for you. And then if they don't work for you, you can just take them off the list or try them another time, and then get some new stuff to put on your list to help us feel better, right, to get through the days, and especially if we're having some hard times and stuff. And I would say just reaching out and talking to someone is very important, and making that connection with people just to have someone to talk to. It's so important, right? It's not good to to suffer along in silence and just suffer along by yourself. That's horrible. I mean, I did that for so many years, and really it should have reached out a lot sooner, and that's the whole issue, right? So we can do this. We can, absolutely. I like this next portion. It's called the healing journey, and it goes on to really talk about it. It says begin your healing journey by thinking about how it is you would like to feel. Write it down or tell someone else. In order to promote your own healing, you may want to work on one or several of the following issues that you know would help you to feel better. And it says, learn to know and appreciate your body. Your body is a miracle. Focus on different parts of your body and how they feel. Think about what part of your body does. Think about what that part of your body does for you. Go to the library and review books that teach you about your body and how it works. Now that's kind of interesting. I've never really done anything like that. But I have tried to connect with my body, like when I felt like I was really like out of sorts and just needing to kind of ground myself. It's like, okay, I'll feel my feet, and then I'll feel my ankles, and then pretty soon it's like, okay, I'll feel where my knees are, and then I'll feel, so I can actually just ground myself, right? And I know that if you've experienced a lot of trauma, then you do need to get grounded sometimes when you just can't seem to focus. Everything goes out of focus. If you're having a hard time, then it's a good idea to breathe and do some breathing exercises and sort of know where our body is, you know what I mean? So we can ground ourselves, right? And I've done a lot of reading on it and whatnot, but I also know that I've actually used this stuff before, so it's very important. Set boundaries and limits that feel right to you. In all relationships, you have the right to define your own limits and boundaries so that you feel comfortable and safe. Say no to anything you don't want. For instance, if someone calls you 5 times a day, you have the right to ask them to call you less often, or even not to call you at all. If someone comes to your home when you don't want them to be there, you have the right to ask them to leave. Think about what your boundaries are. They may differ from person to person, and you may enjoy it a lot when your sister comes to visit, but you may not want to visit from your brother or a cousin. It says you may not want anyone to call you on the phone after 10 p.m. Expect and insist that others respect your boundaries. And that's a huge issue, especially for survivors of child abuse, because all the boundaries are broken, and boundaries may have never even been set up properly. Quite often, in dysfunctional homes and abusive homes, right? There is no boundaries, right? Its boundaries are just set by whatever the abusers are setting the boundaries, right? And so obviously the children don't learn good boundaries, and so then we have to learn them as adults, right? So you have to really know what's right for you, and I talk a lot about that on my shows because I know as an adult we have every right to set our own boundaries, but we have to know what they are. So you have to know what's comfortable for you, and when someone's making you uncomfortable, you have the right to say, excuse me, but you are making me uncomfortable. I don't want to be rude, but this makes me uncomfortable, and I really wish that you wouldn't do that. And we have to let people know. And if somebody continues to do it, then we have to put our foot down and say, no, I told you. You know what I mean? Because we have to really be responsible for, how we let others treat us. If you were abused as a child, quite often we didn't. Well, obviously, you don't have a choice when you're growing up in an abusive home and someone in the family is abusing you. You don't have a choice. As a child, you are forced to endure that. Unfortunately, we all know so many people who have been through that. And so, you just learn. It's a learned behavior that people once they become adult survivors, right? They often don't do any work on actually setting these boundaries, right? And quite often end up being abused by other people in their adult lives, whether it's a partner, a husband, a wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner of whoever, just someone in your life that you're dating or whatever, that relationship type stuff, right? Then or a friend. A lot of times even friends will try to It's not maybe that they necessarily on purpose try to hurt people, but the whole issue is that they do. And if you don't set up boundaries, then it's just more abuse on top of more abuse, right? Which then causes the adult survivor to think, is this all I'm ever going to have? Is this all my life is? Is just abuse after abuse, abusive people in my life, right? Well, you have the choice as an adult. As a child, you don't have the choice quite often, unless you run away and then you end up on the street, and that's not cool. The whole issue is, but if it's to save your life, well, sometimes it's necessary. But the whole issue is, as adults, we have every right to decide who stays in our life and who doesn't. And so, I made a real deal with myself many years ago, and I said, I will not allow people to treat me wrong ever again. I will not allow any abusive people in my life, period. So if people are not going to respect me and are just only going to try to be abusive to me, they have no business in my life. And I have shut out a lot of people, let me tell you. Now, it was a lonely road for some time because I was kind of shutting everybody out just because I didn't trust really anybody. But I finally learned, okay, you can trust some people and they can prove themselves trustworthy. I mean, I want to be proven trustworthy. I want people to trust me. So that's the whole issue. If I want to be trusted, then I have to learn to trust. That's one huge issue for survivors. But the thing is when people become abusive, I know what abuse is, and I will not take it. So, the minute somebody thinks they're going to start being abusive with me, I just let them know. I don't like their behavior. And then if they continue to do it, I just cut them off. I end the relationship. Because, you don't deserve to be abused anymore, right? That's what I have to say. If you're an adult survivor of child abuse of any kind, it's all bad, right? Doesn't matter what kind of child abuse. It's all absolutely horrible. If you've survived that, then you certainly don't want to go on to live an adult life full of more abuse, right? Because as an adult, you have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to say no. You have the right to set these boundaries that you know are comfortable for you, and then, let people know that that's your boundaries and that they are not to be crossed, and that that's just the way it has to be. Because we don't deserve to be, abused as adults. I mean, no one does. Even if you were not abused as a child, right, and then you go on to have, a domestic violence and abuse situation, I mean, that's just as bad, right? It doesn't matter. It's all really bad. So don't allow yourself to be abused, and especially as an adult, because as an adult, you have the right to get out and to get, yourself some good people, right? Surround yourself with people who are good people, right? Like people that do care about you and want the best for you and are there to help you and support you. And not everybody can be as supportive as, all the time as we'd like. But just to know that they're there and, that we can talk to them if we need to, that they're not hurting us, they're not abusing us, and that they want the best for us. I think those are the type of people that you want in your life, not people who are just going to be, subjecting you to more abusive type behavior, right, as an adult. So I was very careful about who I allow in my life, and I've been like that for many, many years. And I'm still like that. I don't get into any relationship thinking, oh, well, if somebody's going to treat me wrong, I'll just let them because that's my whole life, and, I'll just be abused for the rest of my life. That is just a really bad way to look at things. I said, no way, no more. It stops here. It stops now. I'm an adult, and I don't have to take that. You know what I mean? So I put my foot down, and I would hope that everybody would make sure that you do, protect yourself as an adult survivor, right? Or even as anyone on this planet who's an adult. You do not have to put up with that behavior. It's just very unfortunate, and we do a lot of studies and work on the whole issue surrounding domestic abuse and violence, and it's absolutely horrible. I grew up in that, that mess with my parents, and it was absolutely horrible to see someone, allow someone to treat themselves and their children that way, and of course then turn on their children as well, because both my parents were very, very sick. So really unfortunate. This happens to people. We know it does. So make sure that you don't allow that to happen to yourself, and you want to have a good life. You want to have a life on your own terms, right? And I think that we all have that. We have really the responsibility for ourselves to make sure that we do the best thing for ourselves and live a life that is good, right? We got about a minute left, so we'll finish up this portion of this article here tomorrow. And I have a good friend in the chat room here, John Harrison from the UK, and he's got a website. It's a great website. Be Safe First Always. We're going to be doing some work with John Harrison, and he is an author, and he's also a He's an advocate, really, against child sexual abuse and against child abuse, really, in the UK. And he's a very awesome guy. I hope you will check. We'll get you his links and stuff tomorrow, or even like tonight on my show tonight. I'll be sure and pass those along to you. And so everybody have a great day. Take care of yourselves. I'll be back on tonight, 9:30. Child abuse prevention, human rights abuse prevention is up to us. And then Dreamcatchers Talk Radio as well with Elizabeth Roberts Brawley, Southern Regional Director. So have a great day, everybody. Make sure you take care of yourselves. If you need something, get a hold of me on Blog Talk Radio or Facebook or whatever if I can help you find some information. Otherwise, just have a really awesome day, and we'll be talking to you soon. Bye-bye.